Hello, this is Dread from Last Epic Builds, and today's video topic is going to be a video about FoE's Poison Lich Monolith Farmer. Now, so I was looking for a Lich build to play, and I asked my friend Fo, I was like, hey, you have anything? And he was like, he gave me this build. This is his personal Monolith farmer that he uses just to farm monoliths, just over and over and over again, probably just while watching TV. It's very AFK friendly, very auto-bomby-ish. It just requires 2 buttons to play. The move with the Reaper form and then the move with the transplant. You obviously need to sometimes turn back on Reaper form or turn on your Aura of Decay after logging out or logging back in. But other than that, the build is very keyboard friendly and very good for people with very bad arthritis or anything like that, like I am. So the concept of the build is we're utilizing Wandering Spirits, Aura of Decay, and Transplant with Rip Blood support to clear monoliths while you are trying to obviously go as fast as possible. So the idea is you're just applying as many poisons as possible, as quickly as possible. So Aura of Decay gives like a negative 60 poison res to everything that's in your area. So when you're on a single target or a rare, they instantly die with how much poison you have. The Reap helps a lot with maneuverability. The Transplant applies a lot of poisons at once due to the power of multiplication. And of course, Rip Blood just adds even more explosions for Transplant, which adds a little bit of AoE clear to the build. Wandering Spirits is there as kind of a support to clear stuff, to clear trash while you're moving through the monolith, and it also provides you with a lot of single target DPS. Now, the best thing about this build is it's one of the cheapest builds I've ever played. It's very easy to sustain Reaper form thanks to the fact that Aura of Decay works with healing effectiveness, with something I did not know recently until now, which is very awesome, being able to just sustain your Aura of Decay and your Reaper form just by utilizing healing effectiveness on your gear, which is mainly just your rings, your relic, and your amulet. And pretty much you're just healing pretty much 12% of your missing HP per second, but then it gets multiplied by your healing effectiveness. I'm about at 400% effective healing effectiveness. So if I'm healing 12% of my missing health, I'm instead actually healing 48% of my missing health per second, which pretty much almost makes you immortal while in Reaper form. I believe my counter is at like 40 seconds without doing anything, but obviously Leech has a lot to do with it, as Lich is one of the only builds in the game that has global Leech in its tree, meaning that you can actually leech from all your dots, which makes the build very strong and tanky, as you're doing damage, you will leech back all the damage, including all the poison damage as well. Very, very, very strong. It's about 6% at the top of the tree. If you like poison, this is the build for you. Lots of poison DPS as well. And very good at killing mono bosses as well, thanks to just how Transplant interacts with poison. And with that being said, let's get into the skills, shall we? Alright, here we are in game here with my Lich build, Hunger Strike. The name doesn't really necessarily mean anything for this build. It was kind of random because I was trying to play Hungering Souls and that didn't really do well because Hungering Souls is pretty bad. But with that being said, let's get into the skills, shall we? So the first skill that's very important actually this time around is Aura of Decay. So mainly what we're doing with Aura of Decay is we're taking 3 points here, an Undertow for the slow chance so that things in our aura are slowed. Then 3 points into Corrosive Aura as travel. So our armor will obviously reduce each stack of poison. And then Decrepify. So Aura of Decay inflicts armor shred instead of poison to you and enemies. So what this does is it turns off the poison aura AoE and makes it so that you do not take poison damage anymore while having Aura of Decay up. That is very important, as Aura of Decay scales with your own damage and causes you to die very quickly, but being able to turn off the damage makes it so that you can sustain other things without having to worry about the poison damage killing you constantly. And then of course we have 1 point into Putrid Bombs. This just adds another hit to all your poison chance, just another multiplier on single target. 3 points into Chill to the Bone, giving you chill chance so that things are chilled around you, so bosses are chilled so that they attack slower. Then this is the most important node in the entire build, Absence of Life. Now, allies within range, including you, are healed by Aura of Decay each second. It heals more the less health you currently have. So the way it works is if you have, it heals 12% of your missing health. Now, we have about, where is it? 400% healing effectiveness. Kind of funny it got on that number, huh? 400% healing effectiveness. Now, what that means is instead of 12% of our missing health is healed, it's 48%, which almost allows you to sustain Reaper Form for a long time. So as you can tell, when I turn on Reaper Form, it will be constantly healing me up without any involvement of anything else. You can't health regen while in Reaper Form, so you can't do that. Can't do anything other than this specifically and Leech, so that's why this is very strong, as it gives you a way of sustaining Reaper Form without too much effort. Just a little bit of healing effectiveness on your gear, and it's not too much of a tax, especially considering it allows you to stay in Reaper Form for a very long time without having to worry about getting booted out. Now, other nodes that are important: 1 point into Inoculation, this does not matter. 2 points into Vulnerability for negative enemy poison res, very strong. On top of the 1 point here, Fume Weaver, enemy poison res per intelligence. So if we're going to hop over to our intelligence here, we are at 50 intelligence. So overall, our Aura of Decay is supplying us with a negative 60% poison res aura around enemies. Now, this does affect us as well, but since we are turning off Aura of Decay with the Armor Shred node, it does not damage us, so that we don't have to care about poison. And if you did not know, in the current state of the game of patch 0.8, poison damage actually doesn't really do much. As long as you are not standing in poison pools, you will not take much poison damage, which means that this is the most useless resistance in the game, which allows us to simply ignore it and simply just take 35% more damage from poison when we do get poisoned. And trust me, in the Monolith, poison is not very common. While, of course, in Arena it's a lot more common, but if you play smart, you will never die to poison. And even then, you have so much sustain that you'll almost never die to poison. As you can tell, I've been sustaining Reaper Form this entire time. Now, for other nodes as well, we have Poison Bolt. So Poison Bolt just applies an extra 2 stacks on top of all your other poison chants as well every 3 seconds. Just gives you even more single target damage. As you can tell, we want to multiply as many hits as possible with this build, as it allows us to deal a lot of damage. Now we have Reaper Form here. This is the second most important part of the build. So we take 1 point into Death Touch Size for travel, 1 point into Haunting for travel, 1 point into Pestilence. It turns our Reap into a poison kind of thing, and it makes it so it can't crit, which doesn't matter for us. 3 points into Venomous Coating, which gives us 105% more poison chance for Reap, and also gives us a global poison duration of 30%, making our poisons last a little bit longer, which is very important on single target. Then 5 points into Herald of Rot. The poison stacks to nearby enemies on transform is kind of useless, but the global poison chance is very useful for us, as since we are stacking as many hits as possible, the more global poison chance we get, the better. And then 1 point travel into Soul for a Soul. It actually reduces our healing effectiveness by 10%. So instead of 400%, we're about at 360%, but it's so small it doesn't matter. You could take this node and you would not feel a difference. 2 points into Reaper's Curse gives you increased damage. One note is the health loss on kill is very vital, meaning that like if you kill a lot of mobs, you will drop very quickly, and it's the main reason why we don't run Death Seal in this build, because if we are running Death Seal, it'll be reduced to 33% health, and it only takes 33 kills to get us all the way down to 0. Very, very annoying. Then 4 points into Death Comes Quickly, just gives us stacks of swiftness. We can have 10 of them, and it gets us up to 10% increased movement speed, which makes it very strong considering we are a Monolith build. And that's it for Reaper form. The next most useful skill in the build is Transplant. So we take 3 points into Acolyte's Fervor for a little bit more cast speed that affects our Transplant, so we move around faster. 3 points into Dance of Blood, which we'll get into later while we're running that. 1 point into Rain of Blood. So we have 1 detonation with Transplant, so that's 1. This gives us 2. This node gives us 3, so we're at 5. We take 2 points travel into Scarlet Rain, and then this gives us another 2 detonations. That is 7 detonations in a very small amount of time span, and I'll show you here. So 7 times our poison chance is like about not like 14 poisons. It's a very large amount of poisons. So as we transplant on something, it stacks a lot of poisons very quickly and deals a lot of damage very, very, very quickly. I'm not in Reaper form or anything, so the damage numbers aren't very high, but you get the picture. So we use that to scale our single target damage with the detonations on the poison, because that allows us to get a lot of hits very quickly. And of course, with the build, we should be running Transplant cooldown idols. I was not able to drop any, but we can assume that you'll eventually get them yourselves. But I wasn't able to get any because I was very unlucky. Then for the last 5 points, we take 5 points into Sadism. We lose a little bit of our current health, but we gain 25% increased global damage. And that's it for Transplant. Then we have Rip Blood here. I was not able to finish leveling it, but I'll show you where to go for it. Now, of course, we take 1 point into Eviscerate for a blood splatter. So it's 2 hits, and then we take another point into Splatter so that we get another hit, 100% chance. So we get 3 hits in total, although the splatters do not hit the original target, but they can overlap and hit the same target if they attack different mobs, which we'll explain later why. 7 points into Area so that we get more overlap, 1 point into Revile for travel, and then 5 points into Septic Blood. For the last point, you could literally put it anywhere. It doesn't matter for this build specifically. In FoE's original build, he did go down to Septic Wound, but I like the Area for the area clear. Now, the reason why is because, if you did not know, Transplant can cast 3 Rip Bloods when you transplant. And once we have the cooldown idols, it'll like be every 2 seconds, and that's pretty much all of our area clear we could ever want and need. And why is that? Because all of those explosions, you get 3 of them if there's 3 mobs, and they all overlap with each other, giving you even more explosions, which is even stronger. So if a boss is surrounded by a bunch of mobs and you transplant on them and the Rip Bloods all attack all the mobs, it will deal a lot more damage than normal, which is very, very strong. And most Monolith bosses do have mobs near them, so that's very strong for Rip Blood. That's it for Rip Blood. And for the last skill, we have Wandering Spirits. This is just really good for a single target. We take 2 points into Souls of Rage for travel, 1 point into Spectral Putrescence, then we take 2 points into Soul of Filth for even more frequency. The reason why we take this is because it allows our Wandering Spirits to apply poisons on hit. So if we summon some Wandering Spirits, they will spawn around us and apply poisons, and they use your poison chance, meaning it might have 200%. So they apply 3 poisons on hit, and as you can tell, the damage ramps up pretty fast, and that's the majority of your single target. And then of course you have Transplant as a support as well to do even more, and it gets very, very crazy very, very fast. So, and then we of course take 4 points into Lingering Soul, so our spirits last longer when we summon them. 3 points into Spirit Swarm so that our spirits, so our cooldown is lower, so it's about 5.5. So whenever we're sitting in the same spot, we start overlapping with spirits. 5 points into Thin Veil to give more reveal rate. This is just pretty much 35% more damage if you think about it. 35% more souls, which means 35% more hits, which means 35% more poisons, which means 35% more damage in the end. And then for the last 3 points, you want to put it into Spectral Scorn so that we get a little bit more range so that they shoot things from a higher range. And now you know all the skills and stuff, I can show you how much damage the build does. Ding. About 100k DPS with about no gear. My gear's pretty bad. You could get it a lot better. I have no idols that actually help me other than this one. So you're missing like about 280% damage here, as you'll see in it maxed out, obviously, right? But obviously for any boss encounter, you just gotta like circle them, transplant on them, and they'll die. And that's it for Wandering Spirits. That's it for the skills as well. Let's talk about the mastery. Alright, for our passive tree here, we take 8 points into Forbidden Knowledge for Intelligence, because that scales our Aura of Decay negative resistance, and then of course obviously gives us Necrotic Resistance, which kind of opens up some suffix slots for us as well on our gear. 6 points into Blood Aura, you could probably finish this out as we're only like 81. 5 points into Blood Pact later on when you have more points. 1 point travel into Mania of Mortality, then 5 points into Unnatural Preservation. When you get a little bit of better gear, you can take these points out and obviously move them around here, but right now I'm using it to cap my res a little bit. Now we're moving into Lich here. I take 2 points travel with Dance with Death, 8 points into Crippling Insight for a lot of intelligence. That's negative 16% poison res on enemies for us, and about 56% more damage, or I can't do math right now, so whatever. It's 4% per intelligence. 8 points into Desolation for more increased damage. 8 points into Lasting Stench for more poison damage and poison duration. Very strong. That combined with Reaper Form, that brings our poison duration to 80%. Very, very strong. Almost doubles our single target poison damage. 10 points into Necrotic Penetration, so we're at about 60% with our Aura of Decay, and this bumps it up to 90%. It also helps us kill things that are outside of our Aura of Decay AoE as well. 5 points into Contagion Engine, so we get damage over time on kill, so that wasn't even the best single target there. 5 points into Deathbringer. I accidentally made a mistake on this node. Don't put a node in this node, obviously. 10 points into Decaying Form for the global poison chance. The increased poison damage taken does not matter, as for reasons stated before, as we don't really need necrotic res. I would definitely max out Mind over Body. That's 20% decreased poison res and also 80% increased damage. The health drain per second doesn't matter thanks to our Aura of Decay. Then 5 points into Soul Maw, as it gives us a lot of Global Leech, increasing it from 6% base with the 25%, which gives it about 1.5-ish, or about 7.5% global leech-ish, something like that. It's around there. And then for the last few points, like I said, grabbing the Blood Pact, grabbing the rest of Unclosing Wounds, and then whatever else you feel like. The movement speed here is probably pretty good as well. And that's pretty much it for the skill tree and the passives. Let's get on to the gearing. Alright, to talk about gearing here, to start off with our idol here. This idol right here, pretty much increased poison damage while Aura of Decay is active, which is 100% of the time, and increased cooldown recovery speed for Transplant is your best in slot idol. Completely ignore my idols as they're all bad. This is your best in slot idol. This is what you want to be going for. And that's pretty much it for idols. And then for helmet, we take Ellie Res, Intelligence, Health. I got a pretty good helmet here. Amulet, Res, Healing Effectiveness, very important, mandatory. Healing Effectiveness is mandatory. And then some Res and Dodge. Weapon, Damage, Poison, very, very strong. You want to use a Chitin Dagger, as it gives you chance to poison on hit, which is very rare. So it gives you 70% chance to poison, very strong. Profane Robes, you don't want this. You want like, it doesn't really matter which kind you get of chest beast, really. Increased dodge, increased health, dodge, and then of course for the last slot it'll be either intelligence or vitality, depending on whether you want to farm arena or you want to farm monolith. If you want to farm monolith, you probably want the intelligence, and if you want to farm arena, you probably want the vitality to be tankier. For our shield, you obviously want a Solarium shield. I just grabbed the one that worked. I got res on it and healing effectiveness. That's all you really need. And of course, use it for HP or dodge, whatever you need. My gear is pretty trash, but I'm trying to show this build in kind of a, what do you call it? A very early state, so that you guys can kind of follow it a lot easier and then finish it out later, if that makes sense. Show you a budget version so you're not so intimidated by the grind. Then for our rings, this is pretty much exactly what you want for ring: res, healing effectiveness, damage, or intelligence. Intelligence is probably better. Dodge. Both rings should be like that with intelligence. I'm just missing intelligence on both these, so we're missing a lot of intelligence. On our belt, you want dodge percentage here, and to put that Ellie res somewhere else. Dodge flat on potion, and then dodge flat, and then hybrid health here for even more HP so that you're tankier. Engraved gauntlets, you want these with fizz res, intelligence, and then probably after that, probably set res. This is where the set res would go instead of on your belt. It'd go here. And for the last slot, you would put hybrid health on it. The boots, we get dodge. Instead of that armor, it'd be intelligence. Instead of that dodge rating, it'd be hybrid health. And instead of and just that movement speed. And then for our relic, healing effectiveness, dodge, res, HP. That's pretty much all you'd want on your relic. And like I said, this is very budget. The only thing you need that is mandatory in the beginning is the healing effectiveness, so that you can sustain Reperform for a very long time. But this is one of the easiest things to get and stack. About 300% is fine, but you want to get a little bit more than that so you can kind of over sustain, so you can stay and Reperform longer. The more healing effectiveness, the better. If you have uniques in your build, this is a very strong unique to utilize with it. You and your minions have 80% increased healing effectiveness. You could run this for a very, very long time. And if you never plan on walking into the arena, this is a very strong pair of boots to run, as you don't need as much dodge to keep dodge cap because the monolith isn't as difficult. So you can afford to get this 80% increased healing effectiveness. As you can tell when I put this on, we're at 470. Return on the Aura of Decay, and we heal a lot more, as you can tell, up to 500%. That's about a 20% increase multiplier on our healing. Very, very strong. I could stand here for ages, but we're not. And that's pretty much it for the video today. With that being said, thank you all for watching. Sorry it's so budget this time, but I'm a little rushed as patch is coming soon, and I really want to play Surge when it comes out. So with that being said, thank you all for watching. Have one for us today, and bye.